As many of you know, I'm Dr. Alejandro.
And I'm Dr. Emily.
And we're on a mission to rebuild chiropractic one partnership at a time.
We help chiropractors open practices, revive failing ones, and step into their true calling. This is the Path to Victory podcast. Do you ever notice that when you barely have any toothpaste left, you turn into some sort of magician? You start rolling the tube, you're squeezing every corner, and you can make a little bit of toothpaste last for like 3 to 5 more days. Except when you get a brand new toothpaste, then all of a sudden you're reckless. You're putting it all over the counter, it's falling in the sink, you're like, oh, I don't need that, I'm just going to scoop it off and throw it out. Why is that? This is the concept of Parkinson's law. And I was thinking about this the other day. And this is a book. I read this law actually from a book, Timothy Ferriss, The 4-Hour Workweek. Amazing book. Really wonderful concepts if you want to have kind of like a time capacity, just mind blown experience. It's a really, really good book. So I do recommend it. But this idea of Parkinson's law is that work expands to fill the time that you give it, and not the other way around. This law has explained so much more of my productivity than any planner ever could, right? So if you give yourself all day, think about it. If you give yourself all day to get a to-do list done, it's going to take all day. If you give yourself 2 hours to get a list of 10 things done, magically you can get 10 things done in the 2 hours. Time abundance can create waste. So if you know you have all day, you're going to take all day. But if you're like, man, I only have 1 hour to get XYZ done, I'm going to freaking make that last and I'm going to be as productive as possible. And it's really because this idea that time can stretch or shrink to whatever capacity we want to fill it in. When we tie this back to entrepreneurship, busy does not mean productive. I know we've done an episode on this before. Just because you have 100 things on your to-do list does not mean you're moving the needle forward. Actually, it might be the opposite. If you are doing the monotonous tasks that could be done maybe by an hourly employee, it's not actually being productive. You're being least productive and you're not driving the ROI in any stretch of the imagination. These long to-do lists are actually lying to us. And if we don't give ourselves a deadline, we're doing ourselves a disservice. So here's that toothpaste analogy again. When we have a full tube, we're sloppy with it, right? When we have a whole day to get things done, we're going to procrastinate. I'm going to take a little snack break. I'm going to take a little 20-minute Instagram scroll break just because I can, right? But if I have a short amount of time, when I've got an empty tube of toothpaste, I am going to squeeze out everything that I can in a short amount of time with short capacity because I'm more efficient, I'm intentional, and I'm focused. It's the same toothpaste, it's the same tube. We've just changed the volume of what we have. The constraint doesn't remove the capability, it reveals it. So you don't become more skilled at getting the toothpaste out, right? You just do better at not wasting it. You do better at getting everything you can, squeezing everything you can out of it. And so I want to tell this story, a real life story about, some of you may know this guy, Elon Musk. He's a pretty well-known billionaire. And I read this story actually from a different book called The Science of Scaling. And it comes from actually Elon's autobiography or biography, I can't remember. But it was a fascinating story to me and I wanted to share it with you guys because I think it can kind of help stretch some of our concepts. So when Elon acquired Twitter or X, he wanted to make a lot of changes because he knew there was like freedom of speech being censored and all that stuff. And we could talk about that on a whole different episode. But this concept, he talks to his engineers and he's like, there's 3 servers that are running Twitter or X at the time. And he says, we don't need 3 different servers. We just need 1. And the engineer's like, nope, we need all 3. We have to make it happen, yada, yada, yada. And Elon's like, nope, we only need 1. So we're going to get it down to 1. And the engineer's like, okay, this is going to take at least 6 months for me to get done, to just cut it down to 2 servers. And Elon says, you have 6 weeks. You have 6 weeks to get this done. And in fact, it really should only take 6 days, but I'm giving you 6 weeks. So around December 22nd, the 23rd, it's like right around Christmas Eve, Elon is going to fly to his family in Austin, Texas, and he's on his private jet. And he asked the pilot to change the flight to Sacramento, where the servers are housed, because he wants to personally work on the data center himself. It was driving him crazy that these people couldn't get it done in enough time. And he ends up firing the engineers later on, but he flies, he turns his private jet around knowing he's going to go home to see his family at Christmas. He's like, nope, I got to get this done. Flies to Sacramento, and he's with his bodyguard in the data center. And he turns to his bodyguard and he says, hey, do you have a pocket knife? And the bodyguard says yes, pulls out his pocket knife and hands it to Elon. And Elon takes the pocket knife, lifts a vent, and starts pulling cables to disconnect the server rack and starts just clipping wires, because he's like, if this isn't going to happen, I'm just going to do it myself. I don't know exactly what happened after that, like if it caused any like outages or anything, but I'll call it impatience, his impulsiveness, his urgency, and I'll say willingness to ignore people's timelines was the best thing that could have happened to Twitter, because after that is when they turned around and their revenue started generating. When they focused on only having one server, this is where things really took off. And so the reason I bring up Elon's story is because it's not an idea of this productivity of like, we need more time, we need 6 months. And when Elon gives that shorter timeline, he's like, I don't care if you think it's going to take 6 months, you have 6 weeks to get it done, and it's going to get done. And in fact, Elon just made it take a couple days. He's like, hey, you know what? I'm just going to take care of this myself, and I'm going to go and clip some wires, because we are so limited thinking in our brains of, man, that's going to take me weeks. That's going to take me months. Okay, what if you put a deadline on it and you say, nope, I only have this much amount of time? The core lesson in this is that high achievers can compress timelines. Entrepreneurs should be compressing timelines, not because we're impulsive or impatient, but because when we add constraints to our time, it enhances our focus. It makes us more intentional. It makes us more productive, and we force choices that others might not ever take in a positive way, right? We all know this saying of indecision is the worst decision you can make. It's better to make a wrong decision and make a mistake than having not made a decision at all. So I wanted to bring this up in this episode today because you can treat your day like it's constrained, right? And especially after having kids, this helped me so much. I know that if I have to pick up my son at X time, I have X amount of hours to get XYZ done. I better freaking bust my butt and make it as productive as possible, because when I'm with my son, I'm not trying to get that stuff done. I am fully present with him. And it's been this concept that I've adopted that has really helped me not only in business, but also in my personal life as well. It helps you compartmentalize, and you're like, hey, I got to get this done, and here's the amount of time I have. I give myself a deadline to get it done. It doesn't matter if it's an ongoing project, if it's a quarterly project. I'm like, well, here's the deadline I'm putting on myself because I know it's going to get done. So with this too, being pregnant has really helped this idea of having a time constraint, because I know I've got X amount of weeks left, at least, who knows, right? And here's what I need to get done. And I've noticed in this season of my life, even if I'm like slowing down, quote unquote, or just being more intentional about rest, I'm also so much more intentional about my time, because I know it's limited. I know that in a couple of weeks, maybe days, I'm going to have a baby and I'm not going to be able to get stuff done. So I physically have a timeline that I have to have respect to, and it has helped me be so much more productive. So parents, I hope that you could relate to this. Business owners, anybody who says, I'll just do it when, I have a little bit more time. It's not going to happen. You have to give yourself a deadline. You have to give that time constraint. And I promise you, it's not a restriction. It actually forces you to be more productive. When we give ourselves fewer hours to do something, we have better boundaries, we have higher standards, and we make faster decisions. And that's ultimately what moves the needle forward. Not having unlimited hours in the day to get stuff done. It's actually better if you limit your hours. So I want to challenge you all with these questions. Where are you treating your time like a full toothpaste tube? When you just buy a tube of toothpaste and you're absolutely reckless with it and you're like, yeah, I'll just, whatever, splash it all around. I can throw some out. It doesn't matter because I've got an abundance of toothpaste. Where do you have that with your time, that you are not getting stuff done? Do a time audit. What am I spending the most time on? Check your screen time on your phone. What am I spending all of my day or all of my time on my phone? Is it Instagram? Is it checking emails? Or is it actually being productive? Most of my time, by the way, on my phone is spent on ChatGPT, because I treat that thing like my personal assistant. What would you change if you could cut your available work time in half? So let's say on a CEO day, on a day where I have a lot of time, I've got 5 hours. What if I said, you know what, instead of this 5 hours, you've only got 2.5 hours? What would you get done and what would you need to change to be more productive? And then what constraints do you need to intentionally add? Maybe I am procrastinating a project that really needs to get done that's going to bring in new patients or that's going to bring in this awesome reactivation campaign. But I am just like, yeah, whatever. It's kind of like there's no timeline on it and it's not an urgent thing, but it could help revenue. But it's just kind of like, there's a lot of other things that I need to do before that. What if you put a deadline on it? Hey, this reactivation campaign, I need this done by end of March. And here's what I need by da 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 da. What if you put a constraint on it? How much more productive could you be? And let's see what the results are, right? The goal isn't to have more time. The goal is just to be more productive and use your time better. I really hope that helps. Let's not waste our time. Let's be as productive as possible. And if you guys want to connect more, paththovictorychiro.com or check us out on social media.